Wireless charging has become a common feature in many cell phones. Are electric cars next? It's technically possible to transfer power not just to cars, but also buses and trucks, even while they're in motion. On this show, we'll take a look at how it all works and check out the current state of inductive charging in vehicles that are on the road. Is it the future of transport? That story and much more this week on the DW Science Show. Welcome to Tomorrow Today.
An electric test car that charges up while moving down the road. As it rolls along the test track, the batteries are topped up. It works even if it's snowing or raining. Even without any direct contact between the car battery and the road, energy can be transferred from one to the other. The really innovative thing is that the charging is roughly as efficient as with wired systems. The team says 92% of the energy from the charging system in the road actually reaches the vehicle, an unprecedented efficiency rate. Israeli company Electrion has demonstrated that the technology works in principle, and the first modules are already being installed in some short stretches of road. Together with the University of Erlangen in Germany, the firm wants to build a 1-kilometer-long test track on a freeway in Bavaria by 2025. So, how does charging while driving actually work in technical terms? Coils installed in the road carry an alternating current, which creates an alternating magnetic field. And that field, generated by the magnetic coils in the road, transfers energy to a second magnetic coil in the car, generating current through a wireless process known as induction. The system in the road also knows the car's location. That means data can be transferred. So later, the system can determine who has tanked electricity and how much, important information for billing. Experts say an e-car's range could be increased by 20% if long enough stretches of highway are retrofitted with this technology in the future. But highways aren't the only place street induction is being considered. Where might it appear first? Will it ultimately be more successful in city traffic, where smaller electric vehicles are more likely to be used, or on highways for longer distances? It's the market that will decide. The idea is not entirely new. An induction e-bus called Emil has been on the road in the German city of Braunschweig since 2014, though it charges at a bus stop, not while driving. A few parking spaces have also been equipped with inductive chargers, but charging while on the road has mainly been tried in buses. One energy provider is testing a 100-meter-long section of induction-capable road in Karlsruhe that has an efficiency of up to 85%. The technology will soon also be tested in autonomous cars. It could help eliminate unnecessary downtime for charging and increase range. But if enough roads are converted, then normal drivers could also benefit because batteries in commercially available e-cars could be less bulky than they are now. Might the technology perhaps even save electricity in the future? Vehicles will be lighter, so will consume less energy, but still have the same speed and characteristics, so will save electricity. But since building the new infrastructure will also require energy, it's not yet clear whether or how much electricity the technology might save. But one thing is certain. Since inductive charging would lead to smaller batteries, it would reduce the need for lithium and rare earths. But do magnetic coils have to be installed in the streets? Could the same thing be accomplished with overhead lines? Tests involving them and electric trucks are underway. Wouldn't they be cheaper? You might think so, but overhead lines are always problematic because when there's freezing rain, for example, or even just during different climatic conditions, then energy transfer is less efficient. The road-based magnetic coil technology, by contrast, works in bad weather, ice, and snow. And even though inductive charging could also benefit cars, they can't reach overhead lines. Only trucks and buses can. Incidentally, the magnetic fields on converted roads aren't dangerous for drivers or pedestrians, but at around 1,000 euros per meter building costs, the technology today remains far too expensive for large-scale expansion. But that could change. There's a funny example that fits: induction stoves. The first prototypes were extremely expensive. Now they're cheap. I think we could push the price down to 300 euros. If the technology grows cheaper, induction-capable highways in the future could be only slightly more expensive than conventional ones are now. I hope that it'll be feasible in 10 years or less, as soon as we agree on standardization and regulations. After that, things can move quickly. What's still missing are uniform standards that all manufacturers have to stick to. That would ensure that the infrastructure could be used by everyone. But first, the technology's advantages have to be demonstrated convincingly.
If our blood is red, why are our veins blue?
If you have a special science question, send it to us as a video, text or voicemail. If we answer it on the show, we'll send you a little present as a thank you. Come on, just ask. This week's viewer question comes from Zavai B in Zimbabwe.
What causes the mild electric shock that sometimes occurs when you touch something metal? Everything around you, and your body as well, is made up of tiny atoms. These in turn contain electrically charged particles. There are the positively charged protons in the atom's nucleus, and zipping around that nucleus are the negatively charged electrons. So your body is charged, and electrical charge normally flows back and forth between you and the environment without you noticing a thing. The moisture in your skin and in the air helps ensure that charge doesn't build up. If it turns cold and dry, though, charge exchange no longer works as well. When you then walk, for example, on a synthetic carpet and shoes with rubber soles, your body grows more electrically charged with every step. Friction causes electrons from the carpet to transfer to your body and accumulate there. Because rubber is an insulator, the electrons can't flow back into the carpet. The same thing happens in this experiment. Inside this metal sphere, a rotating rubber band releases electrons, charging the sphere electrically and causing the plastic strands to rise in the air. The same happens to the hair on your body when you're negatively charged, and when an electrically charged object comes close to a conductive material or a body with an opposing charge, it discharges suddenly. Up to 35,000 volts can flow through your body, causing an unpleasant but harmless electric shock. Keeping the air from getting too dry in your home or office, regularly applying moisturizer to your skin, wearing shoes with leather soles, and choosing clothing made of natural fibers like cotton. Those are all steps that can help prevent shocks.
Electricity can be tapped to do all kinds of things, like carrying us up a mountain to go skiing. And some of the energy that drives cable railways can be recaptured from the brakes and used for other purposes. One hotel in Switzerland has harnessed it for heating.
The Stoßbahn in Switzerland is the steepest funicular train route in the world. In places, the cable railway car climbs a gradient of 110%, rising up from the municipality of Schwyz to the winter ski resort of Stoß at 1,300 meters. Because of the steep terrain, the train often has to brake hard. This generates energy that can be recovered. Enough energy, in fact, to heat an entire hotel built next to the tracks. In technical terms, the process of capturing this power is called regenerative braking. Engineer René Koch explains the principle in the train's engine room. You can see the entire drivetrain here. At first, when starting off, the train needs energy to pull itself up the steep slope. The cars then pass each other in the middle. That's where the tipping point is. From then on, it's being pulled. This means that the electric motor first requires power and then starts producing it halfway up. We use this electricity to heat up water.
um das Brauchwarmwasser zu erwärmen.
The effect is a surprisingly big one. 410,000 kilowatt hours of energy is generated by breaking and waste heat yearly. To get the equivalent, you'd have to burn 41,000 liters of heating oil. It's energy the hotel can tap. The generated electricity heats water just like a plug-in tea kettle. There are large water tanks in the basement to store the heat. The fact that the hotel is located right next to the station is ideal. Short distances mean less heat loss. And in terms of construction, being so close meant far fewer interventions to set up the connection. The hot water flows to all of the hotel's 100 rooms and its kitchen. Managing Director Marcel Neuhaus is happy to tap the energy from the Mountain Railroad for heating, especially in an era of high energy prices. With the Stoßbahn, we can purchase electricity at a discount. And the money we pay goes straight back to the train. So it stays with us here locally. And we have a small circular economy going. It's a perfect fit for us. Many hotels and restaurants in Switzerland are located near similar stations, and they have big energy needs, so there's huge potential for other projects. According to engineer Olivier Duvanel from Lucerne's University of Applied Sciences, the sustainable idea can easily be modified for other locations. The application itself is not very complicated, but the cable car technology and the building technology have to fit well together. If they do, you can get great projects off the ground. Back to the mountain, where the first guests are being welcomed to the newly built Stoß Lodge. It's cozy and warm. And you can take a longer hot shower here with a clear conscience. Warm showers heated by the brakes of a funicular train as it slows down on the world's steepest set of tracks.
Energy from the brakes on a mountain train could theoretically be used to do things like power artificial snow cannons. But they're growing less common in Switzerland, because another firm has come up with climate-friendly snow lances, which make artificial snow without using any electricity at all.
At the Melchseefrutt ski area, snow production is in full swing. The resort uses what are called snow lances for the task. They work entirely without electricity. The head of the company that manufactures them, Klaus Dangel, shows off the revolutionary technology's latest design. This is our most recent model, which has 3 heads. It's all about making as much snow as possible in the shortest possible time at warmer temperatures. He's proud of the most powerful machine in his lineup. When new models work like they do here and the water really turns to snow, that's great. The snowmaking firm operates a kind of open-air laboratory in the ski area. It works together closely with the team at Melchseefrutt and has been testing snow lances here for years. They play a key role in creating good pistes. In fact, without the lances, as the head snowmaker confirms, the resort would be hard-pressed to survive. Without artificial snow, we wouldn't be able to keep the ski area in operation. We can't rely on nature alone. Different factors played roles in the decision to use energy-efficient snow lances. We rely on them. They're cheaper to operate and to maintain. And they're less unsightly in this landscape than a tower with a snow cannon on top of it. As a rule, to produce snow, both conventional snow cannons and snow lances need compressed air, and generating that requires energy. But the lances can obtain this energy from naturally occurring water pressure. Cannons can't. It's been a long road for the company. The first reports of a Swiss-made zero-energy snow lance came 10 years ago, a metal monster called Nessie Zero-E. Tested where else? At Melchseefrutt. Klaus Dangel was there too. Daniel and his team explained that the device makes snow without energy. It's a counterintuitive idea. That's because they get all the energy they need to do it from the water spraying at high velocity out of the nozzle. It comes from a lake higher up in the mountains, and the difference in altitude between here and there provides plenty of water pressure. That first field test 10 years ago was a milestone. Even if not everything went smoothly. We had some minor problems with clogged nozzles due to dirt and water that wasn't filtered. There are always little unforeseen things, but now it's working as it should, and I'm delighted. Up there you can see how the nozzle on the left vaporizes the water. Those water droplets are then blown into the path of a jet of ice particles. They mix together and the water droplets freeze, creating tiny balls of ice. And that's how artificial snow is made. Nessie Zero-E worked, laying the groundwork for future generations of the device. Since then, we've continued to develop these snow lances that work without energy input. We can now produce 3 times as much snow. And even in the borderline temperature range, they can still produce a lot of snow. The snow lances are made in the town of Emmenbrücke. Over 1,000 units leave the automated production facility every year. The company's sales doubled in 2022. We're very satisfied. It was a very good year. We always incorporate technical innovations, and that helps our company move forward. The threat of energy shortages has given the business with efficient snow lances a boost. More and more ski resorts are switching from conventional snow cannons. So what does the future hold? In theory, at least, we've achieved the goal of zero energy in snow production. But there are always new challenges, like shorter cold periods and longer warm periods. In November or December, you sometimes have to have all the slopes covered in just 3 to 4 days. That's why we rely on multi-headed lances for a lot of coverage in a short time. This is just one small section of a gigantic suspended snowmaking machine. The technology could potentially be used for more than to just save ski slopes. A plan envisions it stretched over the disappearing Morteratsch Glacier to cover the ice with a protective layer of snow and possibly delay its melting by decades. The company is supplying the key components for the project, but isn't the idea a little over the top? We believe in the project and are sure it's going to happen. The glaciers are melting, and once they're gone, we won't be able to get them back.
Glaciers are receding in the Alps at an alarming pace due to climate change. The mountain range is warming faster than in other places, and that has knock-on effects for many animals, including migratory birds. Some now find it more difficult to cross the Alps as they head to warmer climes in winter. Among them, a species that disappeared from Europe's skies centuries ago, which experts are now trying to reintroduce: the northern bald ibis.
On your mark, get set, and they're off. A flock of northern bald ibises is learning the best route to southern climbs. It's the 16th time I've taken a trip like this, but never one over such a long distance. It's a very special moment. It's 7 in the morning at Binningen Airfield on Lake Constance. Johannes Fritz and his colleagues are making final preparations. They've been working towards this day for months. The team want to guide young birds on a new migratory route. The problem is that when left to migrate on their own, northern bald ibises now leave later in the fall because temperatures remain warmer for longer. Last year, they only set off at the end of October, but their normal route is over the Alps, and later in the year they struggle to fly over the mountains because they don't have the thermals. The northern bald ibis could once be found all over Europe. Then hunters drove the species to the edge of extinction. This project has helped establish several wild colonies of the birds in Germany and Austria. They usually spend the winter in Tuscany. However, as the climate changes, so does their migratory behavior. Because the Alps are becoming such a barrier, this year the flock will head for Andalusia in southern Spain. The young birds should be able to manage that even later in the year. The birds were born at the end of April at Karlsruhe Zoo. The northern bald ibis chicks soon get used to their foster mothers, Helena and Barbara. Flight training at Lake Constance begins in mid-May. The birds quickly learn to follow their two humans, even when they climb into ultralights and take to the air. We generally encourage them all the time, so we call out to them and try to cheer them on a bit so that they stay motivated during the flight. But will the young northern bald ibises manage the long journey to Spain? The first stage is a risky one. The birds are flying lower than flocks in previous years, and this far down, danger lurks. Many high-voltage power lines cross the flight path. It's not so great to fly so low. As a pilot, you really have to take care. But we also worry about the birds a lot because some of them fly under the lines, others through them or over them. But after a 70-kilometer flight, all 35 birds in the flock land safe and sound at the first planned site. There they get a tasty treat for making it this far, mealworms. Helena and Barbara then wait with their charges until the other team members arrive to set up the aviary. The temporary lodgings for the young northern bald ibises are transported by ground and have to be assembled and then dismantled after every stage. It takes a while for the birds to move into it, but the foster mothers are patient. At the moment, we're just happy to have completed the first stage, so if everything takes half an hour longer, that's no big deal. You can't stress out too much. You have to give the birds time. That's the most important thing. Otherwise, they won't come down at all. After a one-day break, the journey continues. The flight to Andalusia is almost 2,300 kilometers, nearly 3 times the distance to Tuscany. Will the birds make it, and will they be able to find their way back? We'll get the birds down there, hopefully, and then release them into the wild and see what they do, how they survive, which habitats they use, and whether they decide to fly back to Germany again by next fall. If the birds do, there are plans to settle them here in Überlingen on Lake Constance. It takes 3 years for northern bald ibises to reach sexual maturity and make their way back to where they came from. When the first birds come back from Spain in 3 years' time, unless they meet another northern bald ibis along the way, it's very likely they'll return to the airfield where they were trained, where they grew up. And then we can catch them and add them to the colony here. Both animals and humans face constant challenges on their long journey. At times, strong winds disrupt the flight plan, and attacks by birds of prey are a regular danger. Members of the flock also disappear occasionally. Most are found again, but 3 of the birds stayed missing. Despite those hurdles, 6 weeks and 19 long stages later, the team reaches the south of Spain.
Jetzt, hallo!
A reason for joy back in Germany and an opportunity to catch up on the progress of the project. A former foster mother asks the new ones how they're settling in. They report that their Spanish counterparts have been very warm and welcoming. The northern bald ibises are slowly growing used to their new environment in Andalusia. The Spanish Partner Project on site will later integrate them into a permanent colony in the area. Barbara and Helena say they're returning to Germany, but feel like they're leaving their birds in good hands. They'll return in December for the release into the wild. For now, they can enjoy the satisfaction of a job well done and hope that one day their wards will dare the long journey back to Germany.
Do you have a passion for science and health? Check out DW Science on TikTok. Why do hummingbirds not get drunk? Why do gravitational waves squeeze our bodies? How much water do we need per day? Do stressed out plants scream for help? No. And what's the perfect cure for bug bites? Find the answers. Get smart on DW Science, our TikTok channel.
And that wraps things up for this time around for Tomorrow Today, the science show on DW. Thanks for joining us, and see you again next week.